Dutch ovens and bread pans are fantastic tools for making bread at home. They do a wonderful job of trapping steam, forming a nice crust, and a perfect little environment for our bread in our home oven. However, as you go along in your baking journey, you're going to run into situations where they might not be ideal for what you need. For example, maybe there's a big event coming up where you've been asked to make a lot of loaves of your wonderful bread, or you just want to make a bunch on the weekend for some friends and family. Well, you come to a point in time where you have to decide, do I want to just bake one loaf at a time, back to back to back, and just use a lot of my time to do that? Or do I want to purchase multiple Dutch ovens and try and fit them all in my oven to make bread that way? That can get expensive and it can take up a lot of space in your house or your kitchen. So that's where open baking comes in. Open baking is where you can make sourdough bread in your oven without a Dutch oven or a bread pan. The key is manufacturing your own steam, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So in this video, I'm going to first walk through the tools you need and then give you a demonstration on how to open bake bread in your home oven. Let's go. All right, so let's talk about the tools you need to open bake bread. The key to open baking bread is generating your own steam. When you're using a Dutch oven or a bread pan, it's trapping all the moisture from that loaf of bread inside that enclosed container, and that's creating steam, which is really convenient. When you're open baking in an oven, that's evaporating very quickly and not generating enough steam to give your bread a nice oven rise or oven spring. And so we need to figure out a way to generate our own steam. Now, there's a bunch of different ways to do that. I'm going to go over two different methods. Some of you may have an oven with a steam setting on it where you can push that steam button and input some water into your oven and it will generate steam for you. I just have a normal oven that doesn't have that, and so I have to use other methods, which I'm going to talk about now. One of the main things you're going to use is just a regular old roasting pan. Now you can get those anywhere. This is what a roasting pan looks like. You can get these at a local retailer near you, Amazon, whatever online store you can find. They're very inexpensive. It doesn't have to be a fancy one at all. And you might be wondering, what do I have in here? These are culinary grade lava rocks. These are great at retaining heat and helping generate steam when you put water or ice in here, which can be very helpful for creating a nice oven spring. And so these lava rocks are what I like to use for generating my own steam. And I got these on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description of the video, but you can get these at like a local hardware store. You want to get culinary grade lava rocks. If you don't want to buy lava rocks, there's alternative methods you can do that work just as well. For example, kitchen towels. You can use kitchen towels, you wrap them up like this into a roll, and you can put 2 or 3 in there. And then what you'd end up doing would be warming up a tea kettle full of water. And when it comes time to bake, you pour that tea kettle of water right over these kitchen towels, and that will generate steam too. It's a little bit more involved doing that, which is why I prefer the lava rocks, because it's much easier just to put these in the oven and pour water on top of them, and it's just a lot more convenient, I think. So let's talk about what you need to place your bread on when you're doing an open bake. So placing your bread on an oven rack by itself will not work for obvious reasons. The bread's going to warm up, it's going to fall through the cracks, and it's going to create quite a mess. So you want to be able to put it on something that is a solid surface that can help retain heat. Now, there's a few options available for this. You might already have these at home. For example, a lot of people like to use pizza stones. Pizza stones are great at retaining heat. so they can help your bread form that nice crust on the bottom and assist with the oven spring. Some people like to use cast iron skillets or cast iron whatever, as long as it's big enough to fit your loaf of bread. I personally like to use what's called a baking steel, and this is what it looks like here. It's just a big slab of steel. This is from a company called Baking Steel, and there are other companies that make those too. And the nice thing about this is, as you can see, it's a big surface area, so I can fit this on my oven rack and I can bake 3 or 4 loaves of bread at a single time. Now, once you've got those, a key thing to remember is that you want to preheat those just like you would a Dutch oven or a bread pan. So the preheat time is still the same. It's like 30 to 45 minutes after the oven has reached the right temperature. And that's important because you want everything to be as hot as the oven temperature when you put your bread in. And that temperature will help create the steam as well. So the last piece of tooling that we need is a way to get the bread onto the baking steel, pizza stone, cast iron, whatever you're using. So my preferred method is a pizza peel. So I have two. This is what I use if I'm just making a single loaf of bread. Just a small little square pizza peel here, and I'll put a piece of parchment paper on top, plop the bread on, score it, and then it just slides right off onto the cast iron, baking steel, or whatever you're using. If you're making multiple loaves of bread at once, you'd want to look into a pizza peel like this, which is a lot bigger, has a lot more surface area. And as you can see, this parchment paper is a little too small for this, but if I were making, 3 loaves at once, I would fill up this pizza peel with parchment paper and plop one here, here, and here, and then just slide it right onto the baking steel when it's time to bake the bread. So those are the tools that you would need. I wish I could say that you don't need anything to open bake your bread and that it just magically could create the steam for you. That would be really nice. But a lot of this stuff you can find at home. And if you're someone that has a different way of steaming than what I mentioned here, leave a comment below to help other people out and give us some other ideas. But this is what I like to do. So next in the video, I'm going to walk you through a demo on how exactly I do this, kind of the order of operations, and then we'll watch it rise in the oven and see how that turns out. So let's go over to the demo. All right, I wanted to show you what the inside of my oven looks like for this setup. So I've got the roasting pan on the bottom with the lava rocks in there, and then I've got one oven rack in, and it's one down from the middle with the baking steel over it. I'm going to preheat my oven to 450 degrees or 230 degrees Celsius. And once that's fully preheated, I'm going to let this sit in there for about 45 minutes to get up to temp. Now, if you're going to use kitchen towels in a roasting pan instead of lava rocks, you don't want to have them in there during the preheat process. You'll want to wait until we put the dough in. And I'll go over that a little bit during that section. But this is what my oven looks like. I'm going to let this preheat and then we'll put the dough in. All right, so it's almost time for me to put my bread in the oven. And I just wanted to quickly go over what kind of tools you need to have available and ready when you do this. It's kind of a bang bang process. And so I've got my pizza peel here. I've got a piece of parchment paper that I'm going to plop my dough on. I've got my bread lump to score the dough. I've got my oven mitt to handle the roasting pan with the lava rocks. I've got a bowl of water. This is just room temperature water. When I pour this into the lava rocks, it's going to generate a bunch of steam. So if that's intimidating to you, you can use ice cubes. I do that sometimes, and ice cubes are a lot easier to pour over the lava rocks. And then the reason I have this tea kettle here is when you're doing the kitchen towel method where you put kitchen towels in a roasting pan, you do not want to preheat those with everything else. Um, you would want to use these at the time that you start the bake. And to be safe, what you do before you put these kitchen towels in the oven is you want to cover them with boiling or hot water. And that water is going to help them from, you know, getting starting on fire essentially. So, and it's going to provide a continuous bake or continuous steam for your bread. And so I'm not going to be doing a live demo with the kitchen towels today. I'm just going to be doing the lava rocks, but I just wanted to make you aware of that. Make sure you do not preheat your kitchen towels, your dry kitchen towels with everything else. Save that for when you're about to put your dough in and it's covered with water. So let me grab my dough and let's start this demo. All right, so I've got my bread here. I'm gonna dump it out. This has been cold proofing in my fridge overnight. And just plop it right on the parchment paper there. And I'm just gonna use my little wire monkey bread lum here to do a nice functional score right down the middle. And let's put this in the oven. All right, bit of a tricky camera angle here, but it's the best I could think of to show you this. So this is how I'm gonna put it in the oven. I'm just gonna, you can see it's just sliding around on that parchment paper. Makes it super easy just to slide onto that baking steel, pizza stone, cast iron, whatever you're using. So here we go. Just like that, it's on. Now I'm gonna close that up. And now is when I'm gonna put my oven mitt on and I'm gonna pour the water over the lava rocks. Set that back in. Now that's gonna give it a nice blast of steam, and I'm gonna set my timer for 20 minutes. All right, so I've got my timer set to 20 minutes. That's how long I like to let it steam for, about 15 to 20 minutes. Once that timer goes off, or my bread just looks nice and risen, has a nice oven spring, that's when I'm gonna take the roasting pan out. All right, so at this point, it's been 20 minutes. It's done steaming. I'm gonna take out the lava rocks. That's why I've got the oven mitt on. But I'm gonna leave the bread in there at 450 degrees Fahrenheit or 230 degrees Celsius to let it finish its bake. And as far as timing goes, it really depends on the color that you like your crust or how well done you like it. So I like to have mine be like a dark brown color. So I'm gonna probably leave it in for about 10 more minutes. And as you can see, it's done a pretty good job of steaming. And so I'm just gonna set these lava rocks up here and let it do its thing till it finishes. All right, so we're all done. And as far as taking out the bread, it's just as easy as putting it in. I just took my pizza peel, slid it underneath, and lifted it out. Some people like to use 2 oven mitts and just grab it out of the oven. Whatever works for you. I just left it in there for about 10 more minutes just to get this nice color that I like on my crust and get it nice and crunchy. And as you can see here on the outer edges of the crust, it's got those nice bubbles. What that's from is when we blasted it with steam, the outside of the dough got a nice lining of moisture, which creates those kind of aesthetically pleasing bubbles on the outside. You can get that with the Dutch oven too, but it's a little harder to get. But I think honestly, open baking is pretty easy. Besides from the steam portion of it, which can get a little bit intense, as you saw. Once you get a handle on that, it becomes a pretty easy process, and it enables you to make multiple loaves of bread at once, which is really nice for certain situations. And also, if you're using a baking surface like one of those baking steels or something else, you can fit baguettes on there, and that's exactly how you would make baguettes. Is the same steaming method. So when I make my baguettes, I do the same process I just did here with 20 minutes of steam and about 5 minutes of baking without steam. And so it really opens the door for other types of things that wouldn't normally fit inside of a Dutch oven or bread pan, or if you want to make multiple things at once without having to have, multiple Dutch ovens or bread pans that take up a lot of kitchen space. So, if you're interested in how I actually make the bread, I do have a video on my YouTube channel of my start to finish process for making sourdough bread and other sourdough things. So check that out. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. With that, signing off. Happy baking, everyone. Thanks for watching.